Is it on? Okay, I think it's on.
Okay, so yes, this video is going to be about... No, it's not going to be about... It's going to be a combination of these 5 videos. That's 10 videos. 5 videos. It's going to be a combination of these 5 videos slapped together into what we call Season 1. The reason why I'm doing this is because, as you can see with the camera, I'm changing up my content. It's going to be... The mic's fucking nowhere near me. The content's going to be very different right now. So... what I'm doing is I'm putting all the old forgotten videos into one video here called the Forgotten Series, I guess you could call it. The Forgotten Series of Stardew Valley Season 1. So that's right now, Season 1. And then the reason why I'm doing it, because I have at least four more videos in this series that I want to do. But like they'll be different, of course, like different quality. And so they'll be in Season 2 of the Forgotten Stardew Valley series, whatever the fuck I call it. So yeah, this is just the intro telling you stuff, and oh, that's right. That's what I need. One disclaimer is that, okay, I have to admit some of the quality of these videos is a bit. I'll just play a snippet.
In Stardew Valley, there are hundreds, no, thousands of items, some that we use on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it's a bit like the mic quality is a bit down, my energy is a bit down, the editing's a bit down, but it's tolerable. All right, so just bear with me for the first couple videos because I promise it gets better. All right, it does. The reason why it's this bad at the start is just because I made these videos back in 2021. Like that's when I started this series, and it's 2020. It's almost at 2024. So go figure. Anyway, yeah, let's get into it.
In Stardew Valley, there are hundreds, no, thousands of items, some that we use on a day-to-day basis. But there are a couple of items that are relatively forgotten due to them either being not very common or unimplemented in the game, with only slithers of their code left to tell us that they did, once upon a time, exist in the game. So without further ado, let's move on to the first forgotten item, the Cursed Prairie King arcade system. The Cursed Prairie King arcade system is an unimplemented item only accessible via an item spawner of sorts. Now, what makes this item way more mysterious than the other items on this list for me is that it does not have a wiki page for it. This may seem like nothing to you, but every item in the game, including the unimplemented ones on this list, have a wiki page with ample information about them, except for this one. There's not even many traces of it online, with only a handful of Steam community and Reddit posts mentioning it and asking if anyone has seen it before. Now, what exactly is the Cursed Prairie King arcade system, I hear you ask? Well, it's this thing. Yep, a purple version of the Prairie King arcade system that looks, well, cursed. And much to my dismay, you cannot interact with it, which means you cannot play it. So the question remains, what is its purpose, and why is it half in the game but not on the wiki at all? We of course do not have a definitive answer, but as this person theorized, I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be rewarded to you after you completed Prairie King on hard mode. Those who don't know, in the saloon there are 2 mini-games. One of them is called Junimo Kart, and the other one is called Journey of the Prairie King. Now, if you beat Journey of the Prairie King, then you get an option to either quit or keep playing. If you keep playing, then you start over again, except this time you are in hard mode, where end-level enemies spawn on the first levels, and it's of course much harder. Regardless of if you choose to continue in hard mode or not, the next day you will receive your very own Prairie King arcade system in the mail, which means you can play one of the most frustrating minigames ever made from the comfort of your own home. So basically, what this person is saying is that once upon a time, Concerned Ape could have possibly made the Cursed Prairie King system as a reward for completing the Journey of the Prairie King on hard mode, but scrapped it due to unknown reasons. This next item is one of the 2 implemented but forgotten items on this list. Well, forgotten by me, but maybe not everyone. This item is the Void Ghost Pendant. The Void Ghost Pendant is an item that allows you to invite Krobus to live in your home. So once you give Krobus a slightly altered item, which is usually used to propose to people with, becomes your roommate on a house you fully paid for, on land that you inherently own. Yeah, I feel like there's some kind of friends with benefits situation going on here because Concerned Ape for whatever reason didn't want you to be able to marry Krobus. Anyway, if you ever want Krobus to move into your house, then this item can be purchased from the desert trader for 200 Void Essence anytime after you have Krobus at 1 heart. The last implemented but forgotten item of Stardew Valley is the Wilted Bouquet. The Wilted Bouquet can be made by simply putting a bouquet and 1 piece of coal into a furnace. Now, the intended purpose of this item is that if you are dating someone and you no longer wish to date them, then you give them this item and you are no longer dating them, and their heart level is reduced back to 5 hearts, with no extra angry dialogue like a divorce would. However, due to the way that dating in Stardew Valley works, you only date someone if you intend to marry them. And if you no longer wish to be married to that NPC, and you want to pursue relations with another NPC, then you simply divorce them, which renders this item, the Wilted Bouquet, quite redundant. Which is why I didn't even know about this item until I scoured the entire items section of the Stardew Valley wiki. And yes, I mean the entire items section of the wiki. Now this item was technically implemented into the game, but you couldn't access it without majorly breaking the game. The wiki states that an error item is any item whose internal ID number doesn't match a valid item ID number in the game's underlying data file object information.xmb. Now in Stardew Valley, there are a bunch of item IDs, and all of these item IDs can be accessed in the file objectdata.xmb. Now if we have a look at objectinformation.xmb, you will find all the item IDs. Now you might notice something. It goes 0, 2, 4, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, then 25. Which would mean that items 23, 21, 19, 17, any number between 4 and 16, 3, and 1 would be invalid item IDs. Also, any number after 930 is an invalid item ID. Because of this invalid item ID, the game doesn't really know what to do, so it just gives you an error item. Now, I was excited to test this out myself and get my very own bread error item. However, you may have realized that I have been speaking about the error item in past tense. This is because, as of the 1.5 update, invalid item IDs no longer spawn error items, but I of course tried to obtain one anyway. I changed the item ID of the hat that was introduced in the 1.5 update to a number higher than 930, the max item ID number. Now, interestingly, this hat item still existed, but it also made an error item. And I know it's an error item because it matched the exact definition on the wiki. This definition being that it has no associated item data, it's sold for 0 gold, and its name is of course ? And no, it was not called triple ? because the hat I changed the item ID number from had the name ? I know this because I tested this item ID change thing on a few other items. So for example, if I change the item ID number on wood to an invalid item ID number, it would also be called ? I also went on YouTube to see if I could find this mysterious bread error item, but all I could find was this video of a person who got the exact same default error item as me. So moral of the story is that the wiki is sometimes wrong, and that the bread error item may forever elude me unless I downgrade to version 1.2, which is not going to happen in the near future because for whatever reason the Steam game downgrader thing on GitHub just doesn't seem to work for me. It's quite sad. I'm not going to go too in-depth into this topic of unimplemented weapons because DF made a whole video on this like 3 or 4 years ago, but I will skim over it. Currently in Stardew Valley there are 13 unobtainable weapons, with 6 of them being clubs, 3 of them being swords, 3 of them being daggers, 1 of them being slingshots, and 12 of the total 13 of them being NPC related. Again, I won't go too in depth into these weapons, but basically they were very gimmicky, with most of them being plain useless or having very low attack with very high attack speed. These weapons were probably just designed for NPC cutscenes and events. Go watch DF's video after this one if you want to know a tad bit more information about the unimplemented weapons of Stardew Valley. The jukebox ring is the only unimplemented ring in the game. Now we can safely infer from the title and description that the jukebox ring would allow you to play the game's soundtrack no matter where you were or what you were doing, without the need of a jukebox. The wiki for some reason does not say what update this item was introduced in, like it does for most other items. So I clicked on the image that the wiki gives me of the jukebox, and it said that this image was added on the 1st of March 2016, a month after the game came out. So it looks like this ring has been in the game since the very start. Not sure why ConcernedApe decided to scrap this item. Maybe he didn't like the idea of a ring that didn't have any associated item data, or maybe it was just too tricky / janky to release. In Stardew Valley, there are 45 total NPCs called villagers, and out of these villagers, 12 of them are marriageable, 34 of them are giftable, and 11 of them are non-giftable. But over the many years of development, ConcernedApe has had to scrap / change some of these characters to better fit the narrative of Stardew Valley, leaving some of these characters to be lost in the dark depths of the game files, and a few random forum posts here and there. So without further ado, let's move on to our first characters, the rivals. If you go into the Stardew Valley game folder, and then content, and then characters, you will find two peculiar files named malerival.xmb and female-rival.xmb. Now you're probably currently wondering something along the lines of, I've never heard of rivals in Stardew Valley, why would they be lying around the game files? Well, this has something to do with the old story of Stardew Valley. Before the completion of the community center was the main focus / storyline of Stardew Valley, there were rivals. And basically how this worked is that you had 3 years to do your stuff, and at the end of these 3 years you'd get a percentage rating. This percentage rating is actually the exact same one that is now used in the 1.5 added perfection rating system. So I guess some part of this made it into the game. Anyway, you had to get a 70% or higher rating to beat your rival. If you were to beat your rival, then they would be banished from Pelican Town, and they were never to be heard from again. As shown in the game files, there were two different rivals, a male one and a female one. The rival you faced mimicked the gender of your in-game character. So for example, if you chose to be a female, then you would face a female rival, and if you chose a male character, then you would face a male rival. The rival often acted rude and arrogant towards the townsfolk, which made them despised by the townsfolk, and if you managed to banish them from the town, then there would be widespread joy among the townsfolk. ConcernedApe also figured that this approach to the game didn't really fit the narrative of Stardew Valley very well, as it wasn't very relaxing and actually kinda stressful, so he made the community center the main aim of the game, which I personally think was the right decision. Also, if it wasn't for Mr. Penguin Panda, then I wouldn't have had access to almost any of this information about the rivals. I would have known about their existence and that would be it. Fortunately for me though, earlier this year, Mr. Penguin Panda upgraded a great video called How ConcernedApe Made the Perfect Stardew Valley. Not only does this video contain a more detailed description of the rivals, but it also talks about the old mines, why meat and butchering was removed from the game, removed endgame quests, and more. So I highly suggest that you watch that video after this one. It'll be linked in the description below. The sea monster is an Easter egg in Stardew Valley that has a 1 in a million chance to spawn. Yes, that's right, for every frame that passes, there is a 1 in a million chance for the sea monster to spawn. And what makes it even more rare is the fact that the sea monster can only spawn in the ocean at the beach. But when spawning, instead of selecting a tile from the ocean itself, it selects a tile from the entire beach, and if there's any sand in that tile, then it won't spawn. This is similar to how the stone owl and the strange capsule used to work, and why they used to be so rare, before ConcernedApe fixed them in the 1.5 update. It can also only spawn on this little section of the ocean. Now you may be thinking that, hey, actually the sea monster is technically a rare event, not an NPC, which you would be right, but only if this video was made before 1.4, because in the 1.4 update, ConcernedApe added 14 heart event cutscenes to all marriageable candidates, and Krobus, because Krobus can become your roommate. And in Krobus' 14 heart cutscene, it depicts them sitting at the edge of a dock at the beach, dipping their feet into the water, when out of nowhere a sea monster emerges. The sea monster approaches Krobus and then reveals some tentacles. The sea monster uses these tentacles to carry Krobus above its head, and they swim around gleefully for a little bit. This scene is just really wholesome in general. Now I guess it's still not technically an NPC in the sense of a townsperson, as you can't interact with them, but you know, it's still kind of a character as it interacts with one of the other NPCs, just like Marcello, who is in the next segment of this video. Now something I want to address with this whole sea monster thing is that there seems to be a debate in the community whether these sea monsters are mer people or not. Just like Dangerously Funny, I personally think that this creature from the night market is actually a mer person. You know, as they look like a mermaid. And I don't think that these sea monsters are mer people. But like, I'm not ConcernedApe, so who really knows? Also, thank you Dangerously Funny for making this video about the sea monster, because not only was this video very entertaining to watch and revisit after all these years, but with these 500,000 views, you are the person that popularized the existence of the sea monster to the general Stardew Valley community. Also, I wouldn't have known that there is exactly a 1 in a million chance for this to spawn, if you had never made that video, so thank you. Marcello and the Mariner are the two NPCs in this video that weren't scrapped and are actually in the game. However, just like me, some players may have forgotten about them, so I thought I would remind everyone about them again. So let's start with Marcello. Marcello was an NPC from Harvey's 10 heart cutscene. Now this may be a bit of a spoiler if you intend to marry Harvey, but basically half of Harvey's story is that he loves aeroplanes and his dream job would be to fly them. However, he can't because of his crippling eyesight and his fear of heights. so he settled down as a doctor instead. And basically what happens in this 10 heart event cutscene is that you both get into a hot air balloon that Harvey ordered, and once Harvey becomes comfortable high up in the air, you and Harvey kiss. But that's not important. What is important is that the man who owns the hot air balloon and the man that Harvey rented the hot air balloon from is Marcello. The Mariner is probably less forgotten than Marcello, but if you are in year 7 of your main file and you don't play much Stardew Valley anymore, like me, then you may have forgotten about him. The Mariner is simply the mysterious guy you buy the mermaid's pendant from, who appears on this part of the beach on rainy days. Also, a cool little tip is that if you want a mermaid's pendant in winter, then use a rain totem, because it doesn't rain naturally in winter, which would otherwise make it impossible for you to obtain a mermaid's pendant in winter. If you go through the folders, Stardew Valley, content, and then characters, you will find some unusual names. These names being Dick, Josh, female rival, male rival, Marcello, Mariner, and Dana. Now we have already discussed who the male and female rivals are, and who Marcello is, and who the Mariner is. However, this still leaves us with Josh, Dick, and Dana. So who are these people? Well, Josh and Dick are the old names and characters of Alex and Willie, and for some reason, ConcernedApe never corrected these files to their current names. Maybe it's because he has written integral pieces of the code using these characters' old names, which would take heaps of time to replace every instance of them. Or maybe he just simply couldn't be bothered. Who knows? If you unpack alex.xmb, you will also find some old sprites of Alex, back when he was known as Josh. However, there is still one character I haven't gone over yet, which is Dana. Dana is a bit different from Dick, because if you unpack dick.xmb, then you will receive the current Willy sprites. However, if you unpack Josh or Dana.xmb, you will get old versions of Alex and Penny. The old Alex sprite is a lot more apparent, but if you look closely, then you would be able to see that Dana is in fact one of the old versions of Penny. This is why they each have their old names on their file. Now some of you may be thinking, hey, Mossy, I just looked into Stardew Valley content characters and I found Dick and Dana. However, I didn't find Josh.xmb. Why is this? Well, this leads us into the next segment. While searching around on the internet, I happened to stumble upon a particular Reddit post from 5 years ago of someone asking who these mysterious characters were. Even though there were only 11 comments and this was 5 years ago, one of these people somehow knew how to unpack XMBs. They put all these unusual unpacked character sprites together into one picture. On this picture, you can see all the previously discussed NPC sprites, but you can also see two new ones, the Shadow Beast and the Dwarf King. Now if you use your eyes and common sense, you can safely conclude that these two sprites are early versions of the Dwarf and Corobus. However, if you look through the game files, you can see that the Shadow Beast, Dwarf King, and Josh.xmb are all gone, but they were in the game files at least 5 years ago, which means that over the years, ConcernedApe has actually taken the effort to remove the Shadow Beast, Dwarf King, and Josh.xmb out of the game's files, as they were no longer needed. However, due to unknown reasons, Dick, Dana, male rival, and female rival still haven't been removed. Yet. As I said before, I think it's because there are integral pieces of the code written around these characters, and it would involve a lot of unnecessary work to remove them. Just like for example how the perfection rating with the rivals made its way into the current version of Stardew Valley, and because the rivals are tied in with the rating system, maybe it's impossible to remove them. But then again, I'm not ConcernedApe, so who really knows? Just like I said earlier in this video, according to the game files, Willie used to be called Dick. Now I find this funny because, say for example, if Willie used to be called Dick, but then ConcernedApe changed his name to Richard, that would make sense, because for some reason, Dick is like interchangeable with Richard. Don't ask me why, because I have no clue either. But instead of ConcernedApe changing Dick's name to Richard, or literally any other male name in the known universe, he changed Dick's name to Willie. And both the words Willie and Dick are synonyms for the word penis. Like, is this just a mere coincidence that ConcernedApe made Willie's name a synonym of penis twice? Or like, has Willie's whole character just been a dick joke this entire time, and we just haven't noticed yet? At this point, it should be common knowledge that there are plenty of Easter eggs and secrets in Stardew Valley. However, over the 5 years that this game has been out for, some of these secrets have fallen out of relevance and have become somewhat forgotten, only to be found in the distant memories of players that have been here since the start. But luckily for you, I've been playing this game since it first came out in 2016, and I have all the necessary distant memories to make this video for you. So without further ado, my name's Mossy and welcome to the Forgotten Secrets of Stardew Valley. In Stardew Valley, once you've repaired the bus by one of these two means, you will gain access to the desert, and in the desert there is a cool place called Skull Cavern that can be accessed once you have the Skull Key. Now Skull Cavern is pretty cool. It's a direct upgrade to the mines, it's practically infinite, it has cool new monsters, it's very easy to find Omni Geodes and Prismatic Shards here, and it's also very easy to farm Iridium ore here. But the Skull Cavern also has access to our first forgotten secret, the Skull Cavern plaques. A regular floor in the Skull Cavern looks like this, and a regular floor where mummies spawn looks like this. Now on these mummy floors, occasionally you will see a plaque on the wall that will look something like this, and a normal person would look at it, maybe say, yeah, that's cool, and move on with their day. But Stardew Valley players are a different breed. They can't just look at these random squiggles on a random plaque in a random cave and go on with their day. No, a Reddit user by the name of 011110000 marks the spot, looked at this and went, this reminds me of a pigeon cipher. So they translated these tiny scribbles into the result of a pigeon cipher, and with the help of others in the comments they translated this into English and made a decryption key. And only 2 hours after this post was originally posted, a user by the name of Ciates, I probably butchered that, figured out what the plaque actually says.
We are cursed. Too much iridium.
Now this makes sense because the Skull Cavern is the place that is most abundant with Iridium ore, and the creatures that are cursed could be the mobs that are contained within Skull Cavern, because in the comments the original user and other users helped to decrypt the message of another Skull Cavern plaque. This one states the following.
Wizard sealed us in this prison until the day a hero puts us to rest.
So not only are these creatures cursed with all this Iridium, which corrupted some of them and made their appearance fully purple, but they are all sealed in this prison for all of eternity, until the day that a hero like you comes along and kills them, freeing their souls. Yeah, that got pretty dark pretty quickly. Also, just remember that all of these plaque discoveries happened after the game had only been out for 1 month. Yeah, I told you, Stardew Valley players are a different breed. So this is where I challenge you, the viewer, to look at any unusual plaques or patterns that look like this, or whatever, and put some deeper thought into them. Do these patterns remind me of something I've seen before, like a certain cipher or the Genome alphabet? Maybe you could be the one to find the next biggest secret of Stardew Valley that has evaded us for over 5 years. But of course, do this after you've liked, subscribed, and watched the whole video because I can't have my audience retention rate plummeting like that. Okay, thanks, on to the next segment, bye. The Leah statue conspiracy is one of the oldest and probably biggest major theories in Stardew Valley history. Essentially what happened is that back in the very early days of the game, people started realizing that Concernape had sprinkled all these different little secrets into the game, and as a result of this, people started to go into full conspiracy mode, and any theory, as long as it was slightly plausible, was put into the light of consideration, at least for a little while. So one day, about a month after the game first released, a random person on the internet decided to put the statue that you get from one of Leah's hot events over a map of Pelican Town, which resulted in this famous picture, and from this picture, the famous Leah statue conspiracy emerged. And basically, the big deal with this theory was that this Leah statue drawing just happened to connect all the boxes plus a few other things in the town, and all of these things like the boxes also just happened to be interactable, so there was a chance that all of these things contained some kind of secret item. And this theory was actually mostly correct, because shortly after this theory was made, people discovered that if you go to One Willow Tree Drive and you place a strange bun in Vincent's toy box, then you will gain the question mark, I'm not going to pronounce it because I know I'm going to butcher it, statue. And if you go into the back room of the saloon and you place a duck mayonnaise into this box, you'll gain the question mark, Pinky Lemon statue. And if you go into the bushes behind the blacksmith and place Super Cucumber into the boxes that lie there, then you will gain the question mark, HMTGF statue. But that still leaves these 4 spots and the community center area up here. Now this is probably just a mere coincidence, but if we extend the drawing just a little bit, then it looks like this. And in the 1.1 update, the Genome plush was added. You can collect the Genome plush by interacting with this bush here on the 28th of any season at exactly 12 PM. And in the 1.3 update, secret notes were added. And once you've collected secret note 14, you can collect the stone Genome from behind the community center. But it doesn't stop there, because with secret note 19, you can find the solid gold Lewis statue behind Mayor Lewis's house. And once you have secret note 20, you can give the man in the Jojo Cola truck a rabbit's foot, and he'll give you a lucky charm in return. The 1.5 update also added the ability for you to fish in the town's pond and receive secret presents from it, which means that by pure coincidence, This random old theory actually aged better over time as ConcernedApe added more secret stuff to the game, which is something none of us could have predicted. The only two spots on this picture that, as of Stardew Valley 1.5, don't have any secrets to do with them are George's letterbox and Harvey's notepad. Now, according to the picture, the notepad on the clinic desk is interactable without a reaction. Now, what I think they are talking about is this thing here. And this notepad is actually interactable. You just need Harvey to stand behind the counter. And if Harvey is standing behind the notepad and you click it, it will open up a menu for you to buy some meds. And because this picture is so old, the person who made it probably just went into Harvey's clinic like once, saw that this notepad was interactable without a reaction because Harvey wasn't behind the counter, and thought it was some kind of secret. So what I'm trying to say here is that this person probably made this mistake because they were new to the game. And then there's George's letterbox. As far as I know, the letterboxes in Pelican Town are interactable without a reaction. Unless there's something like a quest or something else that allows you to interact with them that I've forgotten about, then yeah, they're simply a mystery. Also note that the Jojo Mart box isn't and never was interactable, and it was only in this picture because it was a box. However, if you shorten the tail on the pic here just slightly, then it lands directly on the Jojo Cola truck, which, as I just discussed, gives you the lucky charm. Also, a fun fact about the lucky charm is that there were actually pieces of it in the game's code when the game was first released. However, the lucky charm wasn't officially added into the game until mid-2018. I think it's incredible that people discovered the question mark statue secrets over half a year before the official hint was even added into the game, because people started to figure out the question mark statue secret around March of 2016, and the secret lost book that contains a hint for these statues was added in the 1.1 update, which was added to the game on the 3rd of October 2016. Like, that's just incredible. Also, just before we move on to the next segment, something that I find as interesting as this whole theory/conspiracy thing is the fact that the identity of the original person who made this image seems to be unknown. So, like the young tech-savvy individual that I am, I simply reverse Google image search this picture, and the oldest post of this picture that I found was this Reddit post from the 11th of March 2016. And because this was only 1 month after Stardew Valley was originally released, and in the post the user says my contribution, I thought that I had finally found out where this image had originated from. However, the last link that Google gave me in the reverse image search intrigued me, so I clicked it, and it sent me to a random tire soccer forum where people were posting about Stardew Valley, and at the bottom of this very long thread, I found this familiar picture, and the person who posted this familiar picture posted it on the 10th of March 2016, which is 1 day earlier than the original Reddit post that I found. But the words of my contribution still linger in my mind. So, unless something weird happened with time zones, this random person is actually the original poster of this image? I don't know. I really have no clue. Someone help me out here. The link to the site is in the description if you can make anything of it. If I'm being completely honest, I only know about the Winter Door because I watched this random dangerously funny video back in like 2017 or whatever. But yeah, the Winter Door is pretty self-explanatory. It is an unreachable door at the bottom of the farm map that is most visible in winter, hence the name the Winter Door. But what truly is the Winter Door? Why is it just there at the bottom of the map? And why is it unreachable? Well, I scoured the web and I couldn't find an official answer from ConcernedApe himself. However, I did find some pretty logical conclusions which make the Winter Door seem a lot more boring than it would be. Basically, in Stardew Valley, there are these things called sprite sheets that hold all of the game's sprites and objects. And on this sprite sheet, the Winter Door is right next to this particular tree. And this particular type of tree is the one used in this unreachable part of the farm map. So when making the farm map, ConcernedApe must have accidentally copied a little bit more than just the tree into the desired spot. But because the door is right next to the tree on the sprite sheet, and the fact that the door was only properly visible in winter, ConcernedApe probably just didn't realize it was there. However, somewhere between the 1.3 to 1.5 update, ConcernedApe finally realized that it was there, and removed it from the game. So the Winter Door is sadly no longer. In the 1.5 update, the summit was added to Stardew Valley, and if we boil this down and skip all the spoilers, basically the entrance to the summit is behind this rock up in the mountains, and once you reach 100% completion in this game, the rock will be removed and you'll be able to go up to the summit and enjoy a roughly 5-minute long cutscene. Now, I may have just stated that the summit was added in the 1.5 update, which was released on the 21st of December 2020, but the summit has actually been in the game since its initial release in February of 2016. Well, it existed, but not in its entire glory that it stands in today. So what did the summit look like before the 1.5 update? Well, it looked like this. The unfinished mess that you may expect it to be, hidden away at the top of the mountain. Now you may be thinking, wait a minute, the original mountain layout made the original summit unreachable, so how did people know it existed? Well, they used one of the most famous glitches in Stardew Valley that still hasn't been patched to this day, the no-clip sword glitch. And basically how this glitch works is that every time you swing a weapon or your scythe, you move forward a very tiny amount. So if you stand at the very edge of an area and you swing for long enough, then you will find yourself out of the map. And in the very early days of the game, people started using this glitch all over the map to try and find secret areas, and so this spot was found. Now, like a lot of people, I only knew about this glitch back in the day because of a certain someone. But yeah, people found this unfinished version of the summit back in 2016 by abusing a famous glitch, and it became one of the more known secrets in the community. But since its official addition into the game at the end of 2020, I haven't heard a single person talk about this secret, which is why I classify it as a forgotten secret. In Stardew Valley, there are 3 types of weapons and 64 weapons in total. However, throughout the many years of game development, some of these weapons have had to be scrapped, leaving only traces of them to exist deep within the game files. So, without further ado, smash that like button, and welcome to the Forgotten Weapons of Stardew Valley. The first group of unimplemented weapons that we're going to be going over are the NPC weapons. Now, out of everything I have showcased in this Forgotten series, the NPC weapons are probably the most commonly known out of all of them, thanks to a certain someone. But essentially, how this works is that there are 10 weapons named after NPCs in the game. For example, you have Sam's old guitar, Alex's bat, and so on. Now, when I took a closer look at this, I was like, wait a minute, all these weapons are named after the town's bachelors. Now, you may be thinking, Mossy, there's a total of 12 bachelors in the game, but there are only 10 NPC weapons. So, what happened here? Well, in the very early versions of the game, Shane and Emily were not actually bachelors yet. In fact, they only became bachelors because they were voted in by the community back in 2016. And considering the fact that these weapons never made it into an official version of the game, so they were made in an early version of Stardew Valley, this seems to line up. Now, enough of that, let's actually take a look at the weapons. There's Alex's bat, which does a respectable 1 to 3 damage, and there's Sam's old guitar, which also does 1 to 3 damage. But then you get Harvey's mallet, which again does 1 to 3 damage, but then you look a little bit closer and you see plus 158 speed. It's so fast, bro, what the fuck? It also has like plus 5 weight, which is pretty cool, I guess. There's also Marie's wrench, Penny's fryer, Seb's lost mace, Haley's iron, Abby's planchet, Elliot's pencil, which, you know, Elliot must be a pretty fast rider, like what the hell, plus 158 speed, and Leah's Whittler. And the best thing about these weapons is that you can actually access them using a mod like CJB Item Spawner, because they are actually in the game, they were just never officially added. But why were they never officially added? Well, as far as I can tell, ConcernApe has never explicitly stated why the NPC weapons were never officially added into the game. However, I have collected a few theories about the use of them. Theory 1. This one's the most common theory. Essentially, what could have happened is that these weapons were given to you by the appropriate spouse once you did something important. So maybe once they moved in with you, or once you reached the secret 14 hearts, or when you finally subscribed to my channel, or whatever. But looking at these stats, not only do I think that ConcernApe never finished balancing them, but I also think that they were supposed to be super OP and fun to use. You know, because of the plus 158 speed that most of these weapons have. However, as we know, the Galaxy kit, so like the Galaxy Sword, Hammer, etc., were for the longest time the most powerful and endgame weapons in the game, and they are so much better than the NPC weapons, so ConcernApe probably just scrapped them. He also may have had a hard time balancing the NPC weapons too. Theory 2. I just created this theory out of thin air, but basically, you know that mod called NPC Adventures? You know, the one where you can take your spouse with you on adventures. Like, you can go to the mines with them, and while they're down there, they can kill stuff for you. Well, maybe, at one point in the game, ConcernApe actually planned to implement a feature like this. officially. And maybe these NPC weapons are just merely a remnant of this long lost feature. Now, I doubt that this theory is actually correct though, because there would probably be more evidence of it existing within the game files, just like every other unimplemented feature in this game. But hey, that's just a theory. Again, theory 3. Alright, I lied. There is no theory 3. I'm just straight up telling you to subscribe to my channel and leave a a nice comment for the algorithm, so that more people just like you can learn more useless facts and trivia about Stardew Valley. Anyway, you know the Galaxy Sword and Hammer, and you know how, as of the 1.5 update, you can actually upgrade them to their final form using Galaxy Souls? Well, that isn't actually a new idea. In fact, the process of slowly upgrading a weapon until you have its final form is an idea that has actually been in Stardew Valley for quite some time. Allow me to introduce the next segment. On the 28th of October 2018, a Reddit user by the name of Helena Needs Hugs, well, don't we all, wrote to the Stardew Valley subreddit with a post titled, "Has anyone ever found these items?" which contained a list full of items that they had never found. Now, for most of these items, they eventually found out how to obtain them, but a few of them were still unknown items. So they took to the comment section of their post to say this: "Summoning God Concerned Ape. Can you confirm the existence/locations of Work Boots, Dark Sword, Holy Blade, and Femur?" They then also took a section from the wiki that they wanted confirmation on, which states, "Here is unimplemented game code allowing the player to receive a battered sword through the mail as a reward for an unknown event. This sword could be upgraded by unknown means 4 times, changing it into a hero sword, holy sword, dark sword, and finally galaxy sword." And this is why I say that the upgradability of the galaxy sword and hammer was actually taken from a long lost idea. Anyway, the user tried to summon Concerned Ape, and it worked. Early the next day, Concerned Ape wrote back a response. "I could be wrong, but I don't think that these items are currently, so as of 1.3 update back in 2018, possible to obtain. I think I intended for them to be, but must have forgotten to actually put them in. So if anyone has proof that they found any of these items, please let me know." Eric then goes on to say this: "In earlier, pre-launch, versions of Stardew Valley, there was a point in the mines where you had a choice to either take the Holy Blade, more powerful against ghosts, skeletons, etc., or the Dark Sword, chance to leech health from enemies." That's just Aatrox's sword from League of Legends. "The Femur you were supposed to get from digging, and the work boots were probably supposed to be either dropped rarely in the mines or sold at the Adventurers Guild. Might have to re-implement these eventually." But did Concerned Ape re-implement these eventually? Where are these weapons today? Well, the work boots can be acquired from fishing treasure chests and the level 10 chest in the mines if you have remixed rewards turned on. The Femur is a level 2 club that can be obtained from a floor 10 chest in the mines if you again have remixed rewards on, which also means that these 2 items were officially added in the 1.5 update, 2 years after this post happened. Also, the Dark Sword is a level 9 sword that is dropped by haunted skulls in the quarry mines, and the Holy Blade, as of the 1.5 update, is still unobtainable. There are also 2 more weapons that are currently not officially added into the game that you can gain access to using an item spawner. The Galaxy Slingshot is the only unimplemented slingshot in the game. Now you're probably thinking about the 2 most important questions for any weapon in the game. What does it look like? And how OP is it? Well, it looks like this: a normal galaxy weapon with all the purple and everything, and it does, according to the wiki, roughly 4 times the damage of the regular slingshot using the same ammo, which is roughly 2 times better than the master slingshot if you're wondering. I personally wish Concerned Ape added this slingshot into the game, as the master slingshot doesn't really feel like the endgame slingshot, so to speak. And also adding another galaxy weapon to the game would be pretty cool. The rapier is a level 4 sword that is unfortunately unobtainable, in normal conditions where you of course don't have mods. This weapon is a pretty cool early game sword, and I wish that it was actually implemented into the game. Also, something weird about this sword is that in the 1.5 update, the level of the sword was lowered from 6 to 4, and its price was also reduced from 300 gold to 200 gold, even though it's not implemented in the game. So changing its stats would be absolutely redundant. So why did it change? Well, let's think about it for a second. In Stardew Valley, the level of a sword is determined by an automatic and mathematical system, so the more damage a sword does, and probably a lot of other stuff, the higher it is automatically leveled, and the higher its price is automatically set. And in the 1.5 update, ConcernedApe added a lot of new swords that did way more damage than swords previously. So these new swords would have changed the average sword damage across the game, and the game probably lowered the rapier's level and price automatically, because it now valued the rapier's stats less highly. So I don't think ConcernedApe manually changed the sword stats, but like, again, I'm not him, so for all I know I could be wrong. Also, don't ask me why I know about this automatic level rating system. I've just spent way too long messing around with Stardew Valley's game files. It's honestly sad. But yeah, now you know everything you need to know about the forgotten weapons of Stardew Valley. Do with this knowledge what you will. Maybe keep it to yourself, maybe tell a friend and spread the word, whatever. But whatever you do, make sure you watch one of these two videos next. In September of 2021, I made a video called The Forgotten NPCs of Stardew Valley, and in this video I talked about 7 total characters. Now 3 of these characters are implemented in the game, but I had just forgotten them throughout the years of playing the game. However, 4 of the characters that I discussed in the game weren't just like forgotten, like oh I just woke up one day and I forgot them. No, they were forgotten in the sense that they were literally deleted from the game. And after I published that video, someone in the comments pointed out that I had actually forgotten to put Dobson in the video. Now back then I did know about Dobson and I was intending to put him in the video, but ironically I actually forgot to put him in the video. So yeah, I was like, oh well, can't really do much about that. But that was until one day when I happened to stumble upon a random Chucklefish forum thread where they were talking about NPCs that they'd found in the game files while looking through it, but they'd never actually seen these characters in the game. Now I thought this was just going to be like the usual, oh I found Dana.xb and I found Josh.xb, what possibly could this mean? But no, what I saw surprised me, because in that forum thread was 3 characters I had never seen before. So in this video, I'm going to talk about those new deleted NPCs that I found, I'm going to be talking about Dobson, and I'm also going to have a little secret segment at the end where I talk about something else. So without further ado, my name's Mossy, and let's get started. Back in 2016, a random person on, of course, Reddit found some unused dialogue and sprites from a character called Dobson and like a bus event. Now, back then that was a really cool discovery, but the only thing that they could do really was just speculate. But that was until September of 2018, because in September of 2018, one of Dangerously Funny's mod makers found these same unused sprites and lines of dialogue while looking through the game files. Except this time, they were actually able to piece together a somewhat finished cutscene. And after 2 videos, a total of 1 million views between them, and a response from ConcernedApe himself, the mystery was solved. Finally, everybody knew about Dobson and the bus people. So now that you know all of that, who actually was Dobson? Well, according to ConcernedApe himself, Dobson was meant to be a ruthless mid-level Joja employee willing to do anything to make his way up the corporate ladder. He would be constantly disrespecting you and trying to make your life difficult. He was also going to be the main villain of the game. Now, that's cool and all, but why was he removed from the game? Well, this is because ConcernedApe didn't think that having a confrontational bad guy was the feel he wanted to go for. It's also important to note that even though Dobson doesn't exist anymore, Morris, that is actually in the game, still retains some of that idea. Now, that's Dobson and everything you need to know about him. But why is this segment called Dobson and the Bus People? Well, do you remember a little bit early in the video when I said that Dangerously Funny's mod maker discovered an unused event? Well, this event where you first meet Dobson in is basically just this big bus. And before the event properly triggers, you're allowed to walk around and interact with all the random people on the bus. Hence the name, the Bus People. Now you can make your own conclusions from this picture, but the funniest thing I find is that the mum and child from the Stardew Valley Fair are just for some reason on the bus. Also, that is a really old version of Haley, and I don't know if I've said this yet, but the most important part about this whole thing is that this bus event thing is actually the original intro to the game. Like all that grandpa stuff where he's in the bed and he sends you the letter, yeah, that was like added last minute, according to Concerned Ape himself. So yeah, I probably should have said that earlier in the segment, because it's kind of like the most important thing about the segment, but like, oh well, we're on to the next segment anyways, it doesn't really matter. Do you remember in the intro of this video when I found that random Chucklefish forum thread where they were talking about random NPCs that they had never seen before and I'd never seen them either? Well, yeah, in this segment I'm going to be talking about those characters. So let's start with Shadow Girl. Shadow Girl is an NPC that unsurprisingly, and bro, when I say unsurprisingly, I mean like unsurprisingly in its full 100% capacity, alright? Shadow Girl is an NPC that unsurprisingly looks like this. Yes, it's just a female version of Krobus. There's nothing else to it. But why? Why is there a female version of Krobus? Like, to my knowledge, this is not implemented into the game. However, it is still in the game files. If you go onto your Stardew Valley folder right now, and you click on Content, Characters, and then Monsters, then you'll be able to see Shadow Girl just lying around in the game files, just taking up space, I guess. So yeah, why is this in the game files? Why did Eric make this originally, and why is it not implemented in the game, to my knowledge? Well, I genuinely have no clue. I'm just as confused as you are. Okay, so the Shadow King is by far the most interesting character in this segment. Basically, it looks like this. Now, yeah, this ain't no regular shadow person. This isn't like Krobus. Krobus is really thin. This guy is huge. Like, look at him. He truly does look like a king. However, what's really interesting about this is that at the top of this tile sheet, he's just normal, he's walking, whatever. But at the bottom of it, you see him slowly shrinking down, almost as if he's like dying or something. Now, originally that makes no sense. However, on the same Chucklefish forum thread that I got this image from, a random person found 2 strings of dialogue. Now the first one says, "You're the one that defeated the Shadow King, correct?" And the second one says, "I'm not upset at you for slaying our king. Most of my people considered him a tyrant. He was too quick to suspect people of being dwarvish spies. I'm sure the dwarves were happy to hear it." So yes, according to these 2 scrap pieces of dialogue, you, the player, did in fact kill the Shadow King. And apparently this guy was a bit of an arsehole, so the Shadow people and the Dwarvish people were happy that you killed him. Now with this knowledge, I'm guessing that these last few sprites is him like trying to attack you or something, and yeah, that's probably it. Okay, so the final NPC that I'm going to be talking about in this segment is the Goblin Peasant. Now, who is the Goblin Peasant? Like, what does he look like? Well, he looks like this. Now, most of these are just like walking sprites, and he looks a bit angry in the second to last row. However, the most interesting thing about this is that in the bottom row, it looks like he's getting vaporized. Kind of like he got hit with a spell from the wizard or something. So yeah, he also dies for some reason. And no, there's no dialogue that talks about this character that like anyone on the internet could find, so I guess the Goblin Peasant is just a mystery. But it's cool to know that like another goblin at one point in the game did exist. Also, just before I move on to the next segment, I just want to quickly say that this character, so the Goblin Peasant and the Shadow King, they both don't exist in the game files anymore. However, once upon a time, so back in 2016 when the game was first released, the XMB files for Goblin Peasant and Shadow King did exist. Just don't try and find them nowadays, you're going to be looking for a long time. Okay, so I've wanted to make a video on Linus's mysterious sprites for a long time now. However, there's not really much to this mystery, like I wouldn't be able to make an entire video on it, which is why for the longest time I just simply let it be. But then I started making this video and I was like, hey, wait a minute, I can just squeeze the Linus's mysterious sprites thing into this video. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be talking about in this segment. So, what actually is this mystery? Well, these are Linus's sprites, and you can clearly tell that these 4 rows are his walking sprites, these 4 sprites are from his hard events, these 3 sprites are his sleeping sprites, and this sprite is probably just the one that's used when he's underwater, like when he's at the beach or something. However, these 3 sprites stand out from the rest, and they stand out for 2 distinct reasons. The first reason why these sprites stand out from the rest of them is because they aren't actually implemented in the game, and they never have been. Well, they've at least never been implemented in an official public release of the game. Now, it's pretty common to find scrapped NPCs and whatnot, like just floating around in the depths of the game files. However, this one's slightly different, because usually what happens is I find, say for example, I'll use dana.xmb as this example. Basically what usually happens is I find a certain XMB file, which is what the game's files are formatted in. So say for example, dana.xmb. Now this file is completely unused within the game, and then if you unpack it, you get to see dana.xmb. This is just a regular deleted character. However, this Linus mystery is a lot different, because if I go to linus.xmb, you know, the implemented file, and I unpack it, then I see all his normal implemented sprites, but I also see these 3 sprites that aren't in the game. Like, it's really uncommon. I feel like this is the only existence in the game of unimplemented files that are like in the same tile sheet as implemented files. So that's really weird. I guess that's also kind of a second reason, but yeah, there you go. The second or third reason why these sprites are so unusual and just mysterious is because Linus is this random like homeless guy, and Linus's whole shtick is that he's basically like, oh, I'm a nature lover, yo, I'm homeless by choice, I live in the tent because I love nature and I love connecting with it, and like I don't need any of your material possessions, right? That's Linus's whole character. However, these first 2 sprites show a young version of Linus in a suit, which doesn't make any sense. And the third one is the weirdest out of all of them, because it shows a half old Linus that's clothed, but at the same time he's still young. Now, I have the feeling that these sprites are from a deleted flashback cutscene, you know, because he's like young and in a suit and everything. Now, if this is the case, then this must be a really old cutscene, because there is no trace of this deleted flashback cutscene like at all in the game's code. So if this did like at one point exist, ConcernedApe either scrapped it before like he wrote the code for the cutscene, or he just like completely wiped it for some reason. But there's even more to this, because there's a certain fan theory online that suggests that Linus was the original founder of JojaMart. And even though I don't agree with the theory, because there's another more exciting theory about Linus that I personally believe, this could potentially be evidence suggesting that that particular fan theory is correct. Now, of course, it's really out of context, so you can't just be like, oh yep, Linus in a suit, oh, that means he's rich and he owns JojaMart. Like, no, you can't do that, but, you know, it could potentially point to evidence that suggests that. Also, if you find Stardew Valley fan theories really interesting, or if you knew about the Linus JojaMart theory before I mentioned it in this video, then subscribe to my channel, because I'm in the process of making a very big video that is like, right, if you like Stardew Valley fan theories, like, this will be like your favorite video of all time, alright? And no, it's not gonna come out for a while because it's so big and I don't upload that often. However, it will come out one day, so just subscribe. Oh yeah, it's also important to note that this 4th sprite right here, because it's in like the same row, it looks like it's paired with these other 3 sprites. However, this is probably not the case, because this particular sprite is used in many of Linus's hard events. Like, it is actually implemented in the game. But for all I know, this 4th sprite could potentially be a part of this transition thing. While finding all this deleted stuff and making these videos, it's kind of made me wonder, like, how many deleted characters are truly out there? Like, how many characters did ConcernedApe actually fully delete, or had ideas to implement them but just never did? For all you know, ConcernedApe could have made an NPC that turned out to be your favorite character, but because it got deleted, you'll never even know that it existed.
Wow, good job. Made it to the end of the video. If you like giving me money and getting videos early, head on to the Patreon. If you just like the video, don't want to give me money, hit that fucking like button. Oh yeah, also please watch this video on screen right now, because I really need you to. I'm relying on you. Please watch this video right now. I don't even know what video I'm going to put on screen.